It's time to wake to sleep with Sleep Science Today, where we learn to sleep well with your host, Andrew Colsky on UK Health Radio.
Welcome to Sleep Science Today, the show where we talk all about sleep and the science behind sleep. I'm your host, Andrew Colsky, and we have a show today about circadian rhythms. Our guest is Alex Dimitrov. He is the Chief Commercial Officer of a company called IO, and he's going to be telling us all about circadian rhythms and ways that we can regulate them. So, Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Andrew. It's really a pleasure to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
Great. Well, Alex and I have had an opportunity to meet prior to the show, and he showed me some of his company's work, and we talked about some of the science behind it. We're going to share that with you today. So in order to start us off, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? What got you interested in sleep science and circadian rhythms?
Absolutely. It will be my pleasure. So I was born, raised, and studied in Bulgaria. Most of my studies I did there, and then I decided to do a master's program in the Netherlands to study a master's of entrepreneurship. All my life I've been interested in health, but more on the physical exercise side, and then nutrition. And then what happened in the Netherlands kind of spiked this interest in me for sleep and circadian rhythms. So living in the Netherlands actually affected my mood, energy levels, and sleep due to the lack of light in autumn and winter. So I did my master's studies together with a colleague of mine, Branislav, with whom we ended up creating the company. And what we experienced was what effect the lack of light can have on our mood, health, and overall health, overall well-being. Mm-hmm. We experienced the so-called winter blues, and we didn't really know what it is. And we felt it differently. For example, Branislav, he had a bit lower mood. On my side, it was actually the days when I would see the sun, which would not happen very often in autumn. I would just feel so much more alert and energized, and I would just stop what I'm doing and stay outdoors and try to get as much light as possible. So it was really fascinating. I didn't know how to explain this. So I decided to dive deep into it. And Branislav came up with the idea, why don't we try some of the solutions people use to cope with winter blues and seasonal affective disorder, even though we didn't know really what that means. Being in the Netherlands, the predominant player was Philips, providing light therapy lamps or light therapy boxes, which I'm sure that you're very much familiar with. So we tried these products, such as the Philips Go Light or the Philips Wake Up Light, blue light emitting light therapy lamps. And even though they work quite well, we felt more energized, more alert. We didn't really know when to use them exactly, so we would end up using them sometimes late at night, and that will not help us fall asleep. It will actually make us stay awake.
Right.
Additionally, it's a light therapy lamp, so for those familiar, you put it on your desk, and you need to stay static for half an hour, 40 minutes, etc., and you cannot really move around. You have to be worried if you're getting the light properly, etc. So we decided to create our own solution, which is a portable light therapy lamp, if you will. It's a light therapy wearable that you use on the go. So it looks something like that. It emits circadian blue light, and you use it typically once or twice a day for 20, 30 minutes. And you can really benefit from it by being mobile. And we innovated not only on the form factor, but also on the intelligence. We provided support through a mobile app that is guiding you when to use the device, controlling the device, and other things.
Right. So let me just share for the radio audience. Alex has it kind of looks like a pair of glasses in a way. But instead of having lenses, it has lights where it emits different colored lights, blue light, and I believe red light as well, which we can talk about in a bit. Just imagine wearing a pair of glasses, and that's what it is that he's showing. So thanks for that explanation. You know, it's especially today, much of the light that people get in their homes comes from LED bulbs, where it used to come from incandescent and then fluorescent, and now we've moved to LED. What is the difference between the blue light that might come off of an LED bulb if you just kind of turn the lights on in your house versus these light boxes and light products like you have?
It's a great question. So maybe one step backwards, we can explain a little bit what is circadian rhythm and why light is important to support it. So the circadian rhythm is an internal clock that each one of us has, and it basically orchestrates the vast majority of brain and body functions such as mood, sleep, metabolism, alertness, immune response, etc. And when we live in sync with our internal clock, we live healthier, we live better lives, we live longer lives. And when we don't live in sync with the clock, and here are some examples include if you have experienced jet lag, you have a kind of chronic, acute misalignment of your circadian rhythm, or if you're a shift worker, then this misalignment might take a bit longer. So what we would aim to do, ideally, if we can, is to live in sync with our circadian rhythm, because if we don't live in sync, we increase the chances of getting certain diseases, increase the risk of getting diabetes, obesity, heart disease, certain cancers, etc. And what affects or regulates the circadian rhythm, the most important factor is light and darkness. And we have evolved as humans to stay active, have more energy, have more alertness during the day when there is daylight, and also to wind down and have rest when it's dark outside. And because of that, nowadays we spend more than 90% of our time indoors. So the goal would be to support our circadian rhythms in this new, let's say, environment or setting due to our work needs, lifestyle, etc. So what we would want to get, ideally, is during the day as much light as possible, and during the night as little light as possible. Right. And the best type of light for during the day is obviously sunlight or daylight. And ideally we'll wake up and go out and get some daylight in the first 1 to 2 hours upon waking up. Though we have noticed that this is really not possible for a lot of people, especially in autumn and winter, or due to traveling, if you're a shift worker, certain geographies, etc. So the second best is light therapy. That could come from light therapy lamps or light therapy wearables such as AO. Now, to your question on the LED bulbs, so what we did at home is that the lights that we had before, they were not that much blue and white rich, which especially at night, in the evening, before going to bed, can really stimulate our bodies, and it might make it more difficult to fall asleep. So ideally during the day, as I said, we want to get as much light as possible. And that, unfortunately, is not going to be enough from even the bright LED lights that we have at home. It has to be daylight. Ideally, we'll open the window, go on the terrace, go out for a walk, or use light therapy boxes. And at night, we'll want to dim the lights, have the intensity of light less so that we can prepare our bodies to fall asleep.
Right. No, and I appreciate that explanation because that does put it into perspective. And so, it is when I speak with my own patients about insomnia and those types of things, I share with them that a lot of these harsh blue lights and things, when it's time for wind down and time for bed, you really want to dim the lights in your house. You want to go for the warmer tones. You don't want to have those harsh lights or even the screens, your phone, your TV, those things. So this is something that you got into where you initially had no knowledge or experience. You found a problem that you had and you sought out to solve it. So I imagine you must have run into some challenges.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, as you said, we wanted to solve a problem. As we were studying Masters of Entrepreneurship, we wanted to combine what we were being taught with something practical and create our own venture in a way. But as you said, the product, as you know, it's somewhat complex. You have on one side hardware, which is a wearable device. So how do you fit that in different head types, different ethnic groups, races, etc.? We had to try it on over 1,000 people when we were building the device.
Wow.
And then you have on the other side the software, the application that supports the device, that controls it, that provides different guidance for personalized guidance for different types of people. And then in between you have the light therapy, so how light affects the physiology, and then you have the science, so how is this validated. So what we did is, on one side we leaned towards what was already existing in the scientific literature. We were inspired by the Philips Go Light, which is a light therapy lamp emitting similar blue light. So we basically used this proven technology, the light itself, and put it in a form that is easy to use, that is convenient, and in this way we made sure that the light is effective. And since then we've been also going through different research trials and scientific studies to show the actual effect of the product. But we tried to really bring it all together by collaborations, by getting mentors, advisors to help us build this together. And we got a lot of support, I'm happy to say that, though it was challenging, obviously, just developing the product. And the other challenging thing was, even once we had the product, or at least the prototype, that was more than 10 years ago. So there was no COVID, there was no Andrew Huberman talking about and educating the audience about the importance of light. There were not many experts talking about the importance of circadian health. Even maybe you have different perspective, but I think for sleep as well, a lot of people are not really aware the importance of it. So it was a bit hard to convince people that this is a product they can benefit from. So, but now it's much easier, obviously, due to all the trends that are happening and the importance of light that is becoming more prevalent.
Right, right. Well, I am curious, the idea that you ultimately came up with and brought to market, when you first started looking into options to address the issue that you were concerned about, did you take any different routes, or did that immediately come to you and say, oh, we should do a wearable?
I think it was first a mask, actually, that you sleep with, and then it emits light at some point. But we quickly realized that most people do not actually sleep with masks. So to kind of force them to sleep with a mask to be able to use the product, it kind of really didn't make it very practical. So we iterated towards a wearable device. We went through a ton of iterations on the design, on the experience, on the, as I mentioned, we tried with a lot of head types, and it had to fit a lot of different people. But in the end, I think that our initial vision was to create a wearable device that is easy to use, emitting light, supported by by a mobile app, and that's what we created in the end as well.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, yeah, I do want to be able to get in to talk about the product itself in more detail so that we can understand exactly how it works and some of the challenges, to get it to where it actually is. But before we do that, I'm going to stop real quick for a commercial break, and then we'll be right back and follow up with those questions. So stay tuned on Sleep Science Today. We'll see you in just a minute. If you're having trouble sleeping and you need support, don't go it alone. Join us at our free online support group at sleepsupportgroup.com. Just put in your email address, sign up for the list, and you will be notified of all of our upcoming meetings. It's free, so why not try it out?
Have you ever wondered why you can't sleep well? Well, there could be lots of different reasons. In order to figure it out, I wrote the book, Why Can't I Sleep Well? It includes 150 common sleep questions that are asked and answered, and I provide all of the supporting science and evidence to address each of the questions. I encourage you to get a copy of Why Can't I Sleep Well by Andrew Colsky. It's available at www.sleepsciencetoday.com.
Okay, we're back on Sleep Science Today. We're talking about AO, a circadian rhythm device. We've got Alex here, who is the chief commercial officer of the company. So we're talking about the product itself, and I wonder if you could tell us, what are some of the things built in? Because if I'm a consumer and I'm using this device, how long should I use it? How do I set it? What things do I need to be concerned about? Tell us just the details of what I would need to do as a consumer.
Absolutely, it will be my pleasure. I can show it real quick for those watching on YouTube or other channels, and I'll be explaining as well. So what you see, it's a wearable device, as you mentioned. A lot of people refer to it as glasses, although it looks more like a frame with light prism that administers the light so it enters the eyes properly. Mm-hmm. So unlike a light therapy lamp, it's a wearable device. The light is much easier on the eyes, even though it's providing the same effect, just because it's much closer to the eye, and we have a proprietary diffusion system that diffuses the light so it feels easy on the eyes. We use circadian blue light, 470 nanometers. You have an adjustable nose piece, so once you put it on, the light turns on automatically. It's in a way smart device, no buttons, and by default it comes with a 20-minute session at around medium intensity. If you want to change that, you can do that with the application. Typically people would use it for 20 to 30 minutes, once or twice a day. If we think of an example, winter blues, a person who would want to get a bit more energy in winter, days are dark, you wake up, there is no daylight outside, but you need to be active. So you can put it on the first half an hour, 1 hour upon waking up and get an energy session. You can do it for 20, 30, 40 minutes, depending on how much time you have and how much of an effect you want to get. And then a lot of people also use it in the afternoon to cope with the afternoon energy dip that many experience post-lunch. Mm-hmm. And then if you go into more concrete examples of jet lag, shift work, or some sort of a circadian misalignment, then it depends what you're trying to achieve in order to get the use. So timing is crucial, and it's important to know when you use it exactly. Additionally, there is the guidance from the application, what you do with the app. And just to mention, if you don't want to use the app, you can. There is no need to. You can use just the device on the default settings. And the app, it allows you to control the device. It allows you to change the light intensity, the session duration, and also gives you personal guidance depending on what you'd like to achieve. You would set your wake-up goal, you would enter some sleep data, and based on that, you'll get some personal recommendations, not only about when to use the device, but also about general light exposure, so when to dim the lights, sleep timing for you, when it would be best in order to achieve your goal of waking up or going to bed. There is also some guidance about caffeine intake, meal timing, exercise timing, because these are factors affecting or supporting the circadian rhythm, and timing is of essence. It's crucial when you do these in order to get the desired effect.
Mm-hmm. So, that leads me to a question that I'm wondering about. So, I want to start off by talking about shift work. And there's some other things I want to ask about too, but let's talk about shift work. So you've got a person and they're on the night shift. So they have to be awake at a time when they would normally be sleeping. It's dark outside, they've got to be functioning. And then, of course, when they leave work, now it's probably light outside, and then they have to go and sleep. So what would a person in that situation do with this device? Like, when would they actually use it? How would it impact them? What should they be thinking about?
Exactly. So the first starting point is what type of shift work it is. So if it's something very frequently rotating, like 2-2-2, then there might not be time to adapt the circadian rhythm to all these constant changes. So what you can use the device for is to boost alertness, so support energy levels and being awake. When you feel sleepy, that is typically before the night shift. So for a night shift worker, let's say that you wake up during the day you're sleeping, so then you wake up towards the evening and you get ready for work. One option is to go get daylight if there is daylight outside, or if and if you have the time. From our experience, most people in this situation would actually not have a lot of time to go out and get daylight, even if there is daylight. So they can get a light therapy lamp or a light therapy wearable and get kind of a awakening from the device. Mm-hmm. And what we've seen is that a lot of people cannot really comply with using the light therapy boxes because you need to stay static, and very often you just have a short period of time. I mean, you know better because you have a lot of patients, but you have a typically short period of time to get ready for work. So that would be a good way to use the device before while you're getting ready for work, before you get to work. If the work allows you to do that and you have a break, you can use it potentially once again, somewhere in the middle of the night if you feel really sleepy. Mm-hmm. And then after you finish on the way home, it's important that you find a way to wind down if possible. So if you're outside and there is already daylight, and if you can, try to use sunglasses or glasses that can limit the exposure of light. And then at home, just try to provide a cool, quiet, and relatively cold environment for sleeping so you can get a good night or good day rest before the next shift. Now, if there is time, if let's say you have 2 weeks of the same night shift and then 2 weeks of day shift, 2 weeks of, let's say, no work, then obviously it's much easier to adapt your circadian rhythm to these changes. You would use the device in a similar setting, and you should be able to adapt to the night shift and generally be able to get good rest during the day, and then have enough alertness and energy during the night so that you can perform at your work.
Mm-hmm. So let me make sure that I'm getting this right from you. So if I'm on the night shift, I would think about using this for 20 or 30 minutes, sort of at the beginning of my shift or before I start my shift, but I don't need to be wearing it the entire time, right?
Of course, yes. Okay. It's a short session, typically 20 to 30 minutes. So it's similar to what I mentioned as an example during the day with winter blues. So think of it starting of your day, even though it's in the evening, use it once, and then somewhere in the middle of the day, if you need an energy boost, you can use it once again.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about jet lag for a minute. So let's say that I can think of two common examples that I hear a lot. The first one is someone who knows that they are going to be in a totally different time zone for a few weeks for vacation. Let's say they're going to be gone for 2 to 3 weeks. The second scenario is someone who's a business traveler who travels to a different time zone for maybe a day or two, and then they come back to the original time zone. Is this product helpful for either one of those people? And if so, how would they do it? Do they prep themselves before their trip, or do they just use it on the go? What's the best way?
Great question, and the answer is that it can help in both cases, though maybe in a different way. And in both cases, if the person has the possibility, we always recommend to start the pre-adaptation before the actual trip, at least partially, because that can certainly help you shorten the period that you need to adapt to the new time zone. And especially if you're going on a vacation once or twice a year, you don't want to be feeling jet lagged at the destination, not be able to enjoy it. So what you could do, for example, if you're flying from New York to London, let's say you have a business trip, it's a 5-hour difference, you're flying east. What you'd want to do is you would wear the device or get daylight actually not in the beginning of the day, but more towards noon. That's based on your circadian rhythm and when you wake up and when you go to bed. So we look a bit into these specifics, chronometrics. And ideally in the beginning of the day for the first few days you would avoid light. This is if you have not started the pre-adaptation process. If you have started the pre-adaptation process, what you can do already in New York is start waking up half an hour, 1 hour earlier each day for the last few days before the trip, so that you pre-adapt. And once you wake up earlier, put on AO or go get daylight if there is daylight. I can give one example. So we work with a lot of athletes such as LeBron James, Novak Djokovic, the Spanish national female football team, for example. So the latter, they used it for for the World Cup. They actually won it in 2023. They were flying to Australia and New Zealand from Spain, and they would prepare for Australia and New Zealand before they start their trip. So already in Spain, they would wake up each day earlier and earlier, use the glasses or get daylight, but as we are moving the rhythm so much, we end up 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning, waking up. So there is no daylight, and you can use the device or light therapy box to pre-adapt. So that can certainly help. And then when you're flying west, it's the opposite. When you're flying west, let's say London to New York, let's say that you arrive in New York 7 p.m. local time, that would be already midnight London time. So if you have not started the pre-adaptation, you would feel quite sleepy. What you can do then is, of course, get daylight or use the device not only to help you stay awake, because obviously if you drink coffee, it's not going to have the same effect. It might help you stay awake, but it can mess up your sleep in general, and also it's not going to affect your circadian rhythm. So what you want to achieve is both get more awake during these evening hours so that you don't fall asleep at 8 p.m. and wake up in the middle of the night, but go to bed at a more normal time, and then shift or delay your circadian rhythm so that, again, you don't wake up in the middle of the night feeling unrest but awake, but rather wake up towards the beginning of the morning. So that's why you can benefit from light exposure later in the day to achieve that. Or if you start the pre-adaptation already in London, this would mean that you'd get daylight in the evening, the days before, and then once you arrive, you might be already adapted.
Great. Okay. So, all right. So then one further question is, let's say we've got someone who's working a regular sort of 9 to 5 daily schedule. So they get up when it's light outside and they go to bed when it's dark outside. But they're at work, and you talk about this sort of afternoon slump, right? Everybody feels. So a lot of people will go and get some coffee or get an energy drink or get some sugar or something like that. If they simply use light instead, can they expect a positive impact?
Typically, yes, especially if you have not gotten too much light during the day. It can certainly help. I mean, ideally, you would go out for a walk, so you combine physical exercise that would make you more alert together with getting light from daylight. But you can also, if you're, for example, a lot of people, especially in autumn and winter, they would wake up, there will be no light outside, they would commute to work, so indoors, in the car, in the train, they would go to the office, stay indoors, and then come back home, and again, it's dark outside. So they would get very little amount of light. So for them, especially both in the morning and in the afternoon, they can certainly benefit from either going out getting daylight or using the device to help them boost energy levels, because what the light does, something that I didn't mention before, is the light suppresses melatonin. And by doing so, we feel naturally more alert and more energetic.
Right.
The effect is bigger in the beginning of the day because that's when we have a bit higher amount of melatonin. Then, because during the day typically we have very little amount of melatonin, and then at night or in the evening we want to have obviously a lot of melatonin so that it helps us fall asleep easier at night and get a good night's sleep. So by suppressing melatonin during the day, you help your body produce more melatonin at night so that you get a good night's sleep. Great.
Well, let me stop us here for our next commercial, and then when we come back, I want to talk to you a little bit about red light. So we'll be right back on Sleep Science Today.
Perfect.
Have you ever wondered why you can't sleep well? Well, there could be lots of different reasons. In order to figure it out, I wrote the book, Why Can't I Sleep Well? It includes 150 common sleep questions that are asked and answered, and I provide all of the supporting science and evidence to address each of the questions. I encourage you to get a copy of Why Can't I Sleep Well by Andrew Colsky. It's available at www.sleepsciencetoday.com.
Okay, welcome back to Sleep Science Today. I'm your host, Andrew Kolsky. We've been talking a lot about circadian rhythm and blue light, But now I'd like to shift over and talk a little bit about red light. So your device also produces red light, correct?
Exactly, yes. It's something that we introduced recently. So we have been asked by some of our scientific partners who are conducting different studies with the device many times for a control control unit that is non-effective. And sometimes they would ask for low intensity blue light, so think of 1% or below 1%, so non-effective. Or other times they would ask for red light. So we said, well, why don't we combine this with something that could be beneficial for the customer? And we found that there are studies showing that red light of around 670 nanometers could help aid ocular health. So that's why we have introduced it recently. I know that some people, some of our customers are also using red light to potentially wind down at night from the device, though I think that more important is the ambient lighting at home. So if you're wearing AO, but then the ambient lighting is bright LEDs from the top, think of hospital or supermarket, probably it's not going to help you much. But yeah, we have done that with the goal to potentially help people improve visual health and also to help us in the scientific studies we take part in.
Interesting. Okay, so let's now get into the science a little bit. So you say that you're working with scientific studies, you're having this tested. So because this is a sleep science show, tell us what has come from the studies. What is it? Is it proven to be effective? Effective in what way? What are the studies showing?
Absolutely. So first of all, I do want to mention again that that the light properties that we used were already taken from existing literature and some products on the market that have been scientifically validated, such as the Philips Go Light. So from that perspective, we knew that the product is effective. And what we did already from 2018, we have been taking part in different scientific trials with leading organizations worldwide. Now I think we have around 25 studies we take part in. 2 of them have been finalized. 1 has been published, that is with the US Department of Defense. It was used in the submarine department, and it showed that AO helped improve for sleep loss, improved subjective performance, and also helped regulate the circadian rhythm. So that was one study that's published in Sleep Advances. Another study that was also finalized but not yet published, it's pending a publication, it was with the University of Reykjavik in Iceland. That was in the general population for sleep problems, and it showed to improve sleep quality and reduce sleep problems. And another one that was just, as I mentioned before the show, as we were chatting with you, at Sleep last week, there was a poster from the University of Arizona. So they're conducting a study with AO. Their goal is to get to 400 study participants, and it's all military personnel or ex-military personnel. And the focus is on sleep, mental health, and suicidal ideation. So they presented at Sleep a poster with the preliminary results of 36 participants showing that AO compared to the control, which was red light, actually helped to reduce suicidal ideation and also improve REM sleep.
Wow. So it helped reduce suicidal ideation by doing what? Did these people not
They used the device in the morning, I think.
In the morning. Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, so maybe their circadian rhythm was not optimized yet.
Exactly. Yeah, probably there has been some circadian misalignment, or there is lack of light. They're not able to get light for whatever reason. I know that a lot of elderly people are using the device, and for them it could be very hard to go out and get daylight. Some nursery homes especially, we have some of them buying the devices for the people staying there, and it's hard for some to go out and get daylight, so they can potentially use the device for that reason as well.
Wow. Yeah, I never thought about that, but that's true. It would be very difficult for some of them to get outside. And I never thought about the submarine thing either, but I guess it would be quite dark in a submarine if you turn the lights off.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. So, all right. So here we are. It's 2025, and we are seeing people become much more interested in their sleep They recognize the value of good sleep for their mental health, their physical health, and we're into wearables and just all sorts of sleep devices coming out. What do you see with circadian health over the next 5-10 years?
Well, first, I think that circadian health is really, it's becoming more and more apparent that it's crucial to our overall health because it influences all these brain and body functions such as sleep, mood, metabolism, immune response, everything you can think of. Timing is of essence. So I think what we would see in the future is just personalization for you specifically, including circadian medicine, which is the best time for you personally to take a certain drug, including personalization that you're already providing to a certain extent in terms of light exposure, food timing, meal timing, and obviously with the upcoming years there will be a lot more data points that different devices can collect, utilize this to provide much more personalized guidance on how to improve your circadian health. Because when we live in sync with our circadian rhythm, we truly improve our chances to live longer, to live happier, to live healthier lives. So it really makes a difference, and I would recommend a lot of people to think how they can actually improve their circadian health and in what way. So I'm particularly very excited on how it will evolve.
Yeah. Well, it certainly sounds like, there's the other part of the market, which is not necessarily professional athletes, but just people who are interested in their own health, and they go out and they do all these different competitions and races and things like that. I can imagine this would be just as helpful for them as it would be for the professional athletes. So, there's a lot of people who are really starting to focus on these types of issues.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just to mention that currently we have about 100,000 customers globally, and even though we have some great athletes using the device, the vast majority are regular people, patients, those who can benefit from light, especially in autumn and winter, for sleep, for mood, for different reasons. So we are fortunate to have a wide community already with different types of applications that the device can be used for.
Yeah, and you just made me think of another one, which is people receiving treatment for cancer. Oftentimes they get fatigued, their circadian rhythm is kind of thrown off. It's hard for them to regulate again. I can imagine this would be helpful there as well.
I mean, it's really a great point because most of the studies we take part in are actually focused on cancer-related fatigue, or sleep problems in cancer patients, so trying to really support the circadian rhythm of vulnerable populations. So it's really interesting, and I believe soon there will be results and publications from the studies we take part in.
Wonderful. Wow. So with all of this information out there now and the studies that have been done in the past, and the fact that people had been using light boxes, so we know that it works and it does what it says it's supposed to do. What are some things that people typically get wrong or overlook when it comes to their circadian health?
I think that a lot of people might have been getting things wrong in the past. I think now there is a lot more information, and it's much easier now to actually understand what are the best practices to support your circadian health. As I mentioned, when we started presenting the product, then a lot of people were really skeptical about it. They didn't care much about how they sleep. They just said, I feel okay, I sleep 6 hours a day and I'm fine. But nowadays things changed, I believe, after COVID, after there is so much attention nowadays in the media from different experts, influencers, different type of people with wide audiences presenting the importance of light. And I think that now it's much easier to really support your circadian health. Though I think that now a lot of people probably feel overwhelmed with all the information out there, because they're presented some perfect days by gurus on Instagram telling you that you need to wake up, you cannot look at your phone, you need to meditate for 10 minutes, then you need to go out for a run, get daylight, and then come back, eat in peace, because if you're stressed, then food is not the best, then you need to, not be very much stressed during the day. And then at night, you need to have all these light bulbs at home. You need to wind down. You cannot look at your phone. So there is just a lot of information, which obviously is very beneficial if you do it right, but is just overwhelming. So I think that it's important nowadays for people to understand that even if you do little, it can help a lot. So start with something that you feel comfortable in doing and build from there, because the worst is to be stressed for something that you cannot do. Right.
Wow. Just that whole list of things made me feel stressed about how to not feel stressed. Exactly. So that's overwhelming. I mean, interesting points, but overwhelming nonetheless. All right. So, because sleep is important, because people are focusing on it, because people are trying to do their best and now are aware that maybe they need to realign their circadian rhythm, or they're getting ready for that trip, for the jet lag, et cetera, how can people learn more about IO, and where would they even start if they want to try something like this?
Well, for us specifically, the best is our website. It's goayo.com, goayo.com. We're also very open to people's feedback or questions, and if someone wants to, they can reach out to me personally as well at alex@goayo.com. We're very happy to communicate with anyone who might be interested in what we do, whether that's for a scientific personal reason, they want to try the device. So I would say there, AU Wearable is our handle on Instagram and Facebook. So we post some things there, though the best, I think, is to contact us directly on the website.
Fantastic. Well, we are just out of time, actually, so I appreciate you being here. I do want to remind listeners that if you go to sleepsciencetoday.com, you can sign up to be on our mailing list, and we get out good information about all the things that we do and that we talk about, and maybe some special deals now and then, so make sure you go and sign up. I'm your host, Andrew Colsky, and this has been Alex Dimitrov, founder and chief commercial officer of AO. So, Alex, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Andrew. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Sure. All right. If you've been listening to this show, there's one special little thing that I want to offer. We actually have a discount for you if you're interested in purchasing one of the devices. Alex, can you tell them how they can get that discount?
Absolutely, it will be my pleasure. So we're very happy to provide a 20% discount for any of the offers that we have on our website, goayo.com. That's goayo.com, using the code SLEEPSCIENCE, one word, capital insensitive.
Fantastic. Thank you. We appreciate that, and I'm sure the listeners appreciate that. And thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for listening to Sleep Science Today and learning how to sleep better with your host, Andrew Kolsky, on UK Health Radio. For more information on how you can achieve better sleep, go to sleepsciencetoday.com. Remember, sleep science today and sleep better tonight.